495. I'm your host, Doug Sparks, editor-in-chief of Merrimack Valley magazine. Lou, how are you doing today?
Very well this morning, this afternoon now so far.
Yeah.
Well, that gives you an idea how it's going.
Yes, exactly. Same here, the whirlwind caused by this announcement about the Columbia gas. We're going to be posting about it soon, so follow Merrimack Valley magazine on Facebook, and you'll see a little bit of coverage there on the big announcement if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about. So I received a number of
big precedent, though, huh?
Yeah,
this is a big story.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy, and earth shaking, and I hope it provides some closure for people. So I received a number of, to me, really interesting and challenging Ask the Editor.
I saw the
questions.
thread.
You saw it, okay. I decided to only take one today. So I apologize to everybody who sent in. In the past, I've tried to answer them all, but I realized I would just be rushing through. So I'm going to separate them out, and I'll continue to answer. If you have any more, you can email me, editor@mvmag.net, and I'll take care of them in the future. So what's the question today?
Rob asked you today, and I think it's a very interesting question. What was your career path influenced by any person or publication in particular?
Yeah. So
mentors and influences.
Yeah. So it's interesting because there's just. I'm going to answer the question, then I'm going to answer another question that I've pulled out of that, because nobody really influenced this, because there's just no way I would have ever foreseen becoming an editor.
Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, that wasn't a career path?
No, I mean, why would it be? I was an editor of my high school literary magazine. I was the editor of my college newspaper. I interned as an editor for a theater publisher in New York. Should have seen it coming, but at the same time, it's not like you don't open the classified section and look for magazine editor positions. It just don't exist. So when I got this job, I was on a job search, but I was looking to teach English. I taught English for 10 years. I love teaching English, and that's kind of what I figured I would do. And writing was something I was passionate about, I cared about, but I just wouldn't have imagined that I would be sitting in the chair doing it all day long.
Right.
So I just wouldn't have. You could have told me. It would have made more sense for me to say, you know what, I'm going to enter the UFC, become an MMA fighter, than to become a magazine editor.
How would if someone had a conversation in a coffee shop with you and told you your future, and what you'd be doing, how would you have reacted to that?
Well, I would be very excited.
Yeah.
But so Rob's question got me thinking a little bit about, well, now that I'm here, what influences the way I go about the job, and it's not like I'm influenced by some, New Yorker editor from the 1950s. We're a local publication. We have our own sort of constraints, and we do our own thing. So, and it's going to sound a little bit like I'm being nice, but the reality is I don't think influenced so much in my day-to-day work by editors and publications, but just the people around me, listening to people's stories. That is big. That's a huge part of what I'm doing. I'm just listening to people. Mm-hmm. But I did think of somebody in publishing who directly influenced the way I think about the job, and that's this guy, Paul Marion, who's, I don't know if you know him, but he owns the Loom Press, which is a local publisher. He's a local publisher, and they put out poetry, they put out some political writing, they do all sorts of different stuff, and we meet for coffee every once in a while. And we would talk about writers we admired, like Gary Snyder. We both like the poet Gary Snyder. And he would talk about what he would get out of somebody like Gary Snyder is you can be creative, you can be in the arts, and you can also be actively part of a community. You can be engaged. You can rake the leaves. You can do things. You can try to fix things, make everything better around you. And you don't necessarily have to go to New York. You don't have to go to L.A. if you're a creative person. You can put your stake in the ground, and you can do local work. And that local work is incredibly important. So someone like Paul, who's a really great poet himself, made that decision, I guess, at some point in his life, that he was going to work in this community and build an art scene and build a literary scene here, and not go off to San Francisco when everybody was going to San Francisco. And I like that idea. I like that idea that it's we just don't have to go to these kind of hip centers of creativity to get important work done. And that's a huge influence on, I think, the way we approach our cultural coverage.
What about style?
In terms of style?
Is there a style model? Is there a style influence?
Well, actually, someone who just passed away this week, Charles Portis, is a novelist not a lot of people have heard about him. He wrote the book the novel True Grit, which was made into the 2 films.
That's right.
He's a fantastic novelist that is sort of famous for being a novelist that nobody reads. He wrote some other novels too, and he was a journalist.
That's a job I want.
If you ever get a chance to read his there's an anthology of the writing he did during the Civil Rights era. In Alabama, because he's an Alabama writer. It's just unbelievable, and it's very fair. Like, you just feel like you're in good hands with him. He has a clear prose style, and yet underneath the surface of that clarity, there's always something else going on. He's very funny. People sometimes compare him to Mark Twain. Understated. I really love Charles Portis, for sure. And he just passed away, and it was such a non-news item that I didn't even. I'm a big fan of him. I actually think I started the Charles Portis Facebook page 10 years ago or something like that, and I didn't even hear that he had passed away until a couple of days after. So Portis was...
Did you put a post up? Is that the post I saw?
I mentioned something about it, and I think it was in the LA Times. I think the journalist was making the point that you should read the other books other than True Grit. He has some other great novels that are worth looking at. The other thing is the big influence on style right now is Twitter, and following great copy editors and editors on Twitter as they debate the way the language is changing and the way people are putting together the style guides now. So I like to listen to what people are saying right now, and I'm just grateful that because of something like Twitter, I can listen in real time as people decide what are we going to do with this constantly evolving language, and how are we going to standardize it in a way so that we can communicate clearly.
Right.
People like
we
Ben
talked about
Dreyer
Twitter. We talked about Twitter last week and the problems with it, but one of the pluses of it is that it's kind of the Wild West.
Yeah.
People speak freely, and you get a unvarnished view of these things.
Sure. I mean, 20 years ago, I wouldn't be able to listen in on the thought process of the copy editor or an editor at the Baltimore Sun. Now I can.
Yep.
And that's a fantastic opportunity for me, because we're in a little oasis. We're in this little office in Methuen, and I'm not around other editors. So it allows me to engage in the conversation.
Excellent.
So speaking of local authors, Edith Maxwell is here today. So I wanted to throw you a curveball to start.
Okay,
Before we even get into who you are.
All righty.
You're profiled in the March edition of Merrimack Valley magazine, and Kevin Harkins did the photography.
Yeah.
And I was looking at your bookcase, and I saw a lot of books on like poisoning, and so here's the question: if this interview doesn't go well, would you be able to would you be able to take me out, and there'd be no way to solve the crime? Like, do you know a lot about how to do those kind of things now?
I study it.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't take you out, I promise.
I know you're a nonviolent person, but would you be able to?
I wouldn't even... We're not going there.
Okay, all right.
Okay? Although I do write characters who take people out.
Yeah.
And if I can read about a new poison or a readily available thing like liquid nicotine, maybe I shouldn't go any further.
Okay, all right. Let me write this down. Okay. 2
little vials can kill an adult man. Just
really?
Put it in their coffee and it's tasteless. Yeah.
Okay.
I've done it. So, in a book. I don't think in any of my books I've ever gone with the easy route of using a gun.
Okay.
And anyway, there's too much gun violence in our country. I don't want to write about that.
Okay.
So, there's garroting with a banjo string. There's tropical berries that are used as rosary beads, rosary peas. Crush up one of those and the person's dead.
Okay. There's a little bit of a twinkle in your eye. So first you're like, we're not going to go there, but I see the
She likes the art in it.
Yes.
I like
the art in murder. Yeah.
I like the art. And I do have books of poisons and forensics for dummies, and I have, I think, 3 or 4 books on poisons.
So speaking of the violence, you are described as being part of a genre called cozy mysteries.
Yes.
To people who are unaware of what that is, what is a cozy mystery?
Sure. A cozy mystery is a subgenre of the traditional mystery. So if you think Agatha Christie or anyone who writes a mystery with an amateur sleuth. So this is a regular person. This is not a person whose job is to solve crimes. Not an FBI agent, not a police officer. So it's the person who owns the farm. It's the person who owns the bike shop. It's the chef in the restaurant, and they find a very good reason to want to solve this crime. You know, their business is threatened. Their sister is a suspect. There's some reason why they feel called to put their amateur talents to use. And it's community-based, so cozies are community-based. Justice is restored at the end. So they're not noir. These are not books that make you feel worse about the world when you're done.
Mm-hmm. So you embrace the term? Because sometimes people, they don't like being tagged as part. So you're
silly.
actually okay, and it's almost like, I get the feeling you embrace.
I mean,
the
2 of my
idea
3
this.
series are cozies.
Okay.
I'm happy to write about a village, and I'm happy to write books where that, as I put it, my mother, who taught me to read mysteries and died before my first book came out, she would not read a book with swearing in it. And she would not read a book with graphic sex in it. My books have romance, but they close the door before it gets too exciting.
Yeah.
And they find a dead body, but you're not seeing violence on the page.
Yeah.
And you might read, she swore, or he uttered an expletive worthy of a sailor, but you're not going to read the actual words.
Yeah.
And so they're considered clean reading.
Right.
And there's romance in them, for
Yeah.
sure. But so those are sort of the guidelines of a cozy mystery. It's village-based, community-based, amateur sleuth. Things get fixed in the end.
Okay. Does your religious background play a part in the reason why you're drawn to this genre, do you think?
I have been a Quaker, a member of the Religious Society of Friends,
Okay.
for over 30 years.
And just for people who don't know
Yeah.
what a Quaker is, because sometimes people sort of know or they think
Right,
they know.
we're not Amish.
Okay.
We're
All
not
right.
Shakers.
Yeah.
We're not celibate. We don't drive buggies. But it's a faith that's been around for 350 years, with very strong belief in peace and equality and integrity and nonviolence.
Okay. So does that influence the work?
No. I mean, one of my
Because
series...
it sounds like it does, right? Because
Well-
if there's kind of
In a way, and I do write, the Quaker Midwife Mysteries, which are set in Amesbury, and those have a Quaker in 1889 who solves the crime.
Yeah.
She's the amateur sleuth.
Okay.
But mostly I started writing this genre because that's what I love to read. That's what I was reading, in the early 90s when I started writing mystery fiction.
So what was your first novel?
My very first novel was written under the pen name Tace Baker, and it was called Speaking of Murder.
Okay.
And there are only 2 Tace Baker books, and she's on permanent sabbatical.
Okay.
She was a Quaker, the protagonist was a Quaker linguistics professor in a town much like Ipswich.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
And you studied at the graduate level linguistics,
I
right?
have
You have a PhD in linguistics.
I hold a doctorate in linguistics.
Okay. But you didn't go on to be a practicing linguist, or life took you in a different direction?
I moved to Boston because I got a postdoctoral fellowship at MIT, and then I worked in early speech recognition, so like dragon speaking or talking to Siri, those kind of applications. But I did not go on to become a professor. No.
Does that background help you in any way in the writing process?
Well, I had to do a lot of research as a doctoral, finishing a doctorate, and that helps.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe analytical skills,
Okay.
but not directly, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
And so what about almost right away you're writing about history? Or writing characters with an historical...
I have 5 books in the historical series.
Okay.
My other series are contemporary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And you write under different pen names,
I do.
correct?
I do.
And those pen names are?
So now I write as Edith Maxwell for my historicals and as Maddie Day for the 2 contemporary series.
Okay. Is that why you use a pen name, to sort of distinguish the genre that you're working in?
Not exactly. I had an earlier cozy series with Kensington set on an organic farm, locavore.
All right.
Local foods mysteries, and those were written as Edith Maxwell.
Okay.
And they were not selling spectacularly well, And my editor at Kensington said he would like another series, but he wanted me to use a pen name.
Yeah.
So it looks like a new author.
Okay.
So if somebody didn't like those books written as Edith, and they picked up a new book, they wouldn't say, well, I don't like her books.
Where'd you get the name Maddie Day? Just, okay.
Where everything else comes from out of my books. I mean, I wanted to be called Ruthie Drew because I like the name Ruthie and Nancy Drew, but my editor thought it sounded too old, and I have a great niece named Natty, and I don't know, that's how we do it.
Yeah, yeah. So, speaking of food, you also have a background in food, right? Weren't you an organic farmer?
I was an organic farmer,
Okay.
and I love cooking,
Yeah.
and so my contemporary series have recipes in them.
Yeah, okay, so I want to get into this. I've never heard of food mysteries. As a guy who likes to eat, if you can believe it, I'm intrigued. So
Yeah.
what's a food mystery, and why would food play an element in mystery writing?
There's just that's like a subgenre of cozies where
Okay.
they're foodie.
And they have recipes.
And they
in
have
them?
recipes.
Okay.
So my models, when I was starting to write, Catherine Hall Page, who lives in Concord, Lincoln area, has a long, long-running series featuring a caterer, the Faith Fairchild series, and she has recipes. And the China Bales. I don't know, there's a series featuring an herb shop in Texas, and those
Okay.
have recipes. And I kind of went, oh, that's good. I'll do that. I can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And my editor likes it, and readers love it. Readers love it, and they make the recipes sometimes. And
Yeah.
so,
I remember studying, there was a certain point I was studying ancient poetry, and some ancient poetry has these elements that you think of as being beyond literary. Like there's ancient poems that teach people musical scales, and some that actually have recipes. And this wasn't, or how to hunt. There was an instructional component to early poetry sometimes that we've kind of like, it's not supposed to teach you anything that you can
yeah,
use.
no, I like that.
Okay.
Well, Mary Oliver teaches you how to pay attention to nature.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Well, there
That's
you go.
It's not a recipe, but
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your writing process?
I am writing by 7 every morning. I don't plot my books in any detail. In fact, I'd prefer not to plot them. But my editor wants a synopsis before I start writing the book.
Okay.
And I just, when I'm writing a first draft, I set myself a word count goal. I have to write 1,500 words that morning, and I don't get to leave my desk.
How long does it usually take?
I usually get that done by 10 or 11.
Okay.
I start by 7.
Okay.
So I'm working every morning but Sunday.
All right.
And then the afternoons I'll do promotional things, write blog posts, do my accounting.
Yeah. Where do you blog it on multiple
I do.
websites?
So
what are the websites?
my main group blog is the Wicked Authors.
Okay.
We used to be the Wicked Cozy Authors, but then some of us branched out into sort of
All right.
slightly different genres. And that's every weekday, the wickedauthors.com.
Okay.
Great group, six New England-based authors.
Yeah.
And I also blog I just joined them the second and fourth Friday on Mystery Lover's Kitchen. So it's all recipes.
Yeah. I get this. I looked at the blogs.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that everybody involved is very supportive of each other.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is unusual because you
Yeah.
think of it's not like I would expect there to be like this overriding competitive spirit. But at the same time, there's just kind of feeling like everybody's in together and we're going to talk about each other and promote each other and sort of work together. Is that fair to characterize?
Absolutely. The New England, well, also the whole mystery genre community is the most supportive and generous that I've ever run into in a professional community.
Why? Why do you think you'd find it in that genre?
I don't know.
Is there something about...
In the traditional and cozy sphere, the authors are primarily women, and maybe that has something to do with it. Like, we're just more supportive. Our culture teaches us to be more supportive.
Yeah.
But men I've met who write police procedurals or thrillers are also really friendly and supportive. And
Yeah.
so Bruce Coffin and Edwin Hill and, men in the New England crime fiction community. So I don't know what it is. I'm glad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have I was reading in the March issue, which is coming out soon, on press today, that you have an unusual way of brainstorming your ideas.
Well, So people often ask me if I get writer's block. And I don't really. And my friend and mentor, Hank Philippi Ryan, has said, she's been a reporter for decades. She said, you can't have writer's block if you're a reporter. You have a 5 o'clock deadline, period. You can't.
Yes.
And I don't have that kind of deadline, but I write 3 books. I'm under contract to write 3 books a year.
Yeah.
So I have to write a first draft in 2 months, period. So if I get a little bit I don't know, and because I don't plot out ahead, if I get a little bit stuck, I might sit back in my rocking chair in my office behind my desk with a pen and paper and brainstorm that way, because ideas rise up. And otherwise, every day at about 11, I go for my exercise, my walk.
Okay.
And if I'm writing a first draft, I call it my plotting walk.
Yeah.
And I'll start talking out loud to myself about what needs to happen in my book. And I'll go, oh, Aunt Adele hasn't appeared in a few scenes. We better bring her back. And what about that suspect? We need to hear from him again. And I'll dictate a text to myself on my phone, which I always have in my pocket, and then I'll keep walking.
Yeah.
And people around Amesbury see me go for walks, and they see me talking to myself, and but it works because ideas rise up.
So if we drive by and we see you walking around Amesbury talking to yourself,
I'm writing.
You're fine.
I'm writing. I'm fine. I'm good.
Working.
Don't worry about it.
Do you think much about, because if you're dealing with crime, you're dealing with people sort of at the edges of experience. Do you think much about those states? Do you feel sympathy for people in that? Do you think about the psychology of someone?
Oh yeah. I mean, what I don't write about psychopaths and sociopaths. That would be, in a way, it wouldn't be cozy, and it would be too easy. So, but what would push an ordinary person? Like we all say, I could kill him, to the guy you're mad at, or your spouse or whatever. What would push you or me to cross that line and actually kill them?
Yeah.
Like, we would not do that.
Right.
But it happens. And so I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
And when are the stakes so high? Or when does the anger overflow? And I do think about that.
Do you have to be in
such?
Do you have to be in touch with a kind of dark side of your own psyche to think that way?
I guess so. Yeah. And maybe that's why we crime writers are such nice people, because we get it all out on the page.
You're in touch. So I notice on your web what's your website address?
EdithMaxwell.com.
Okay.
And Maddie Day, author, has a website, but it takes you to her page on EdithMaxwell.com. So we're all in one place.
So I was looking at the pictures, and I saw a picture of your writing desk, and there's a painting right in front of your laptop. What's that painting? What can you tell me about that?
That's a fabulous painting painted by a Boston area artist named Jackie Knight, Knight, that my best friend commissioned for my 60th birthday.
Oh.
And it's a picture of a writer with her back to the world, writing on paper on a desk. And there are mountains, and there's a building on fire, and there's water, and it's just like it's the imagination. And that, it's in my office. Yeah. It's no longer above my desk. That's my crazy planning whiteboard, but it's on the side.
Okay.
And I love it. Yeah. And it's the brand on my bookmarks.
Okay.
And on my website. Okay,
so we can see it
and
right
on my business cards and everywhere. Yeah.
So you're extremely prolific. This method that you've come up with of forcing yourself to write a certain number of words. How many books have you written?
My 20th novel is Murder at the Taffy Shop, and it will be out on March 31st.
Okay.
It's my 20th novel.
Is this the one that's up for the, what's the book that's up for the Agatha
Award?
Award?
Didn't bring that one.
What's it
that
called?
one is Charity's Burden.
Okay.
It's the one before Judge Thee Not, so it's book 4 in the historical Quaker Midwife mystery.
Okay.
And all of the first 4 have been nominated for an Agatha Award.
Okay. For people who don't know what an
Yeah.
Agatha Award is, Agatha Award goes to...
It is nominated by people attending Malice Domestic, which is the annual conference for the traditional mystery, which includes cozies.
Okay.
And it's held in Bethesda every year at the end of April.
Okay.
And Agatha Christie. So there's an Agatha for the best contemporary novel, the best first novel, the best historical novel. Best Short Story. And this is my 7th nomination for Charity's
So we'll know at the end of April.
We'll know. I think it's May 1st at the banquet.
Does it matter? Does it matter much to you whether you win? Is it?
Well, I would love to win. I've been nominated 7 times.
Okay.
I'm only one of 5 to be nominated every year, each year. And a couple years I was nominated for the historical and a short story in the same year. It would be nice to win.
Yeah,
you get a teapot.
Okay.
You get a teapot, a real teapot to bring home.
All right.
And in fact, there's an Agatha teapot toward the end of Knives Out, that movie.
All right.
About a mystery author.
Okay.
If you look at the library, toward the end of the movie, there's an Agatha teapot. Okay. And they borrowed it from the organizers of the conference.
Yeah. It's so you're publishing a lot. And it's striking to me because when did you start a career as a full-time novelist?
Well, I started writing in earnest in the winter of 2009.
Okay.
My first book came out in 2012.
What were you doing right before that?
I was a technical writer. I was writing software manuals.
Okay.
So I've been a writer my whole life.
Yeah, right.
But I got back to writing fiction.
Okay.
Like 50 years after I started.
Yeah.
Because I wrote as a kid a lot.
So what happened in 2009 that made you think maybe it's time to leave the software company?
I didn't leave work till 7 years ago. It was 2013 in May that I quit the day job.
All right.
Because I had contracts and I was writing on weekends and around the edges of a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I just needed to do it full-time.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the way I can write 3 books a year.
Okay.
Like I was doing maybe one a year, or maybe 2, and it was killing me.
Yeah.
It wasn't killing me, but it was very stressful.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're doing, by the way, right now, is Murder on Cape Cod, right here, is I'm going to, if you don't mind signing this.
I would love to.
I am going to send this very copy right here to someone, and all you have to do is click like on the live stream on Facebook right now, and we're going to randomly choose a name, and I'm going to get in touch with you, and I will personally send this to you if you don't mind signing it, so you can check out Edith's work.
And that's the first in the Cozy Capers book group mysteries.
Okay.
Murder on Cape
Excellent.
Cod.
So a good way to start us off.
I love giving away books.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the local influence on your work? Because some of your works are set in contemporary times in this area, and sometimes historically. Do you think about this area and what's unique to this area?
Oh, absolutely. So I had 5 books in the local foods mysteries, as I said. And many years ago when I got interested in writing, I had a small organic farm in West Newbury. So these are set in a fictional town called Westbury.
Okay.
It's much like West Newbury. And really the flavor of that kind of small town and semi-rural is in it. And then the historical series are set in Amesbury, where I live. And I have loved becoming an amateur historian. I did not know how much I would love it. I can walk around town and look at the buildings that were there then and are still there, the mill buildings, the churches, the Quaker Meeting House, and imagine my characters walking around in 1888, 1889.
Have you discovered any historical figures that are appealing to you or that you weren't aware of?
Well, I've learned a lot about John Greenleaf Whittier, and he's a character in the books. I've also worked in...
And for people who don't know who Whittier was.
John Greenleaf Whittier was a poet and abolitionist, the Quaker poet.
Yeah.
Very famous for publishing Snowbound. He made him a rock star. He lived in Amesbury, right between downtown and the Quaker Meeting House, so he could walk.
Yeah.
And...
So how does he figure into how would you use someone like Whittier in a mystery novel?
He's a secondary character. He's a friend of my protagonist, Rose, who's in her 20s, and he's, up in his early 80s at the time.
Yeah.
Just kind of a wise guy, and she goes and talks to him, and he walks around town with his cane. And
yeah, a wise guy, literally a wise individual.
Wise guy.
Not that he's going to whack you if you.
Oh, no, not that kind of wise guy.
Right?
No. Yeah, a mentor and sort of, and he was a liberal guy.
Yeah,
like he supports her independent sleuthing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to in the future? What are you working on now?
I'm polishing the 3rd Cozy Capers book group mysteries, which is going to be called Murder at the Lobster Shack.
Okay. All right.
And then the next book up,
Any recipes in that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
There's recipes for a soba seafood salad and cranberry scones and lobster quiche
Yeah.
and an apple cider teeny.
Ooh, sounds very good.
Yeah.
One of your recent books has something. What's the Barnes and Noble? You have a special deal with Barnes and Noble on it.
Yes.
Okay,
So
tell me
Kensington
about that.
Publishing is my publisher for the contemporary.
Where are they
history.
based out of?
They're in New York. They're
In New
the
York. Okay.
smallest big publisher.
Okay.
And they did. So Murder on Cape Cod, in fact, this still has the exclusive sticker on it.
Okay.
Came out a year ago at the end of December in a paperback exclusive from Barnes & Noble only for the first year.
Yeah.
And then a year later, it comes out in wide release on Amazon, on Kindle, and audio. And then, so Murder at the Taffy Shop is on the same, as an identical exclusive.
Okay.
So it'll be out March 31st, but only in paperback, only from Barnes & Noble for 1 year.
Okay. Meaning only from their website and the stores, and they're the only
In
publishers
the
selling it?
store or on their website.
Okay.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah.
But not in audio, not on ebook.
Okay, all right.
For the first year, and then
Okay.
it goes to what they call wide release.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the third book will go on an exclusive or not.
Okay.
And it sold enormous. Murder on Cape Cod sold hugely well last year, and now it's selling again. It's like got a new life, and it's on audio. And
Why do you think it's sold? What's appealing about this particular book that seemed to? Because my understanding is 2019 was a good year for you, right?
it was a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What are people finding appealing in your books?
You know, my two series published as Maddie Day are just so popular. They sell themselves almost. And this is a beginning. It's a debut in a new series. It takes place on Cape Cod. Everybody's heard of Cape Cod.
Yeah.
If you live in Arkansas, you've heard of Cape Cod,
Yeah.
even if you've never been there.
Yeah.
If you live in North Dakota. And it features a book club that only reads cozy mysteries. It's
Okay.
sort of meta.
Yeah.
The protagonist is Mac Almeida. She owns a bike shop, bicycle rentals, repair, and retail. And but she's a member of this book club, so they help her solve the mystery.
Yeah.
Her half brother becomes the suspect in the first book. And it's just people love it. It's
Yeah.
appealing. And it's on Cape Cod, and
Yeah.
so
But is there something in the protagonist? Is there something in that you think people are just connecting with now? Or is it something
I
you
think
don't
the
think about?
now of the genre in
Yeah.
general is that you don't feel worse about the world when you're done. And the world is hard enough.
Right.
Like, I don't want to read about children being damaged. In cozies, children and pets are never hurt. They're never killed. Somebody might be at risk, but they're never hurt. They're
Right.
never killed. It's just, it can be comforting. I mean, it's a murder mystery.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that out there. I have two young kids, so I'm now seeing the world through the lens
absolutely, yeah.
of bringing kids
Yeah.
up, and it's like I remember when I was a kid, there was a lot of kind of like well-made, interesting stuff on TV that was also sort of gentle in spirit, and a
right.
lot of that has disappeared. It's disappeared from the cinema,
Right.
and so it's nice to know that it's still happening in pockets.
Oh, it's still happening. And really, cozy fans are avid readers.
Yeah.
Some of them read a book a day.
Yeah,
So it's a niche audience, but they buy a lot of books, and I'm happy.
yeah,
And people check them out from the library, and that makes me happy.
Right.
So I just think there's a thirst for that kind of book, where you don't worry about how it's going to end and how you're going to feel when it's over.
yeah, right.
You go to a place, and then when it's a series and you get fond of the characters, like Mac is a real family person. Her parents live down the street. Her father's a UU minister. Her grandma lives across the road with her little telescope.
Yeah.
Her half-brother is raising his 4-year-old daughter by himself. And so he spends a lot of time with family. And that's really important to her. And I think that appeals to a lot of people, too.
Yeah.
And similarly, in the country store mysteries, which are set in southern Indiana, her country store breakfast and lunch restaurant, Robbie Jordan's, has become the community watering hole. I mean, everybody flocks, everybody comes. There's news in the town. It's set in a small fictional town called South Lick.
Yeah.
and her Aunt Adele lives in town, and her 2 young, like, assistant chefs are really great people, and so people like that. And then when the series goes on, they can't wait to get back and read about their friends.
Yeah.
About the people in the community.
Yeah.
I think that's the appeal.
Do you ever get? I sometimes hear this with mystery writers, right? Is that people become so attached to the characters they start to get angry if you take them in a direction that they're not really expecting. Do you have to deal with that much?
I don't have to deal with that much. I occasionally get suggestions from fans about where that should go. But I haven't had people be upset with me. You know, I haven't killed off any main characters.
Right,
either.
but that's not.
Sometimes one of the main sidekicks will go be away for a book.
Right.
They're on vacation, or they're sick, or they're somewhere. But I haven't knocked them off yet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is the one we're giving away. This is Murder on Cape Cod. All you have to do to register for this contest is hit like on the live stream. I'm going to take care of everything else.
It'll include a bookmark.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. I will put the bookmark in there. You can read more about Edith in the March issue of Merrimack Valley magazine, which, as I said, is at the printer right now, which I think might mean if you're a subscriber, you might be seeing it in your mailbox this weekend.
Nice.
Lou, do you have
this
any?
Weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to take Edith back to process, because you mentioned that you don't plot out your books, which I find is interesting. I'd do the same thing. Do you write, though, in sequence? And I also want to expand the question to a series, because it's one thing not plotting out a book. You know, the big question when Lucas wrote Star Wars, did he know Darth was Luke's father?
Yeah.
Or did that come as it went along? So talk about the process of plotting out a book and a series, and whether you write in sequence.
Sure. I do tend to write in sequence. Like, I write that scene, then I write the next scene, then I write the next scene. So
do you get surprised by where it goes?
Oh, yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah.
That's the best part. When the first time it happened to me, I was writing, and a character, a secondary character was in a restaurant, and she fell off her chair. And I looked at her, and I had typed these words, and I went, "Whoa, why'd she fall off her chair? Somebody poisoned her? Did she have a heart attack?" Like, I had no idea. I had to keep typing to figure out why she fell off her chair. And that is magical. That's like a lot of writing is work. It's a little bit drudgy sometimes, but when your characters surprise you, that keeps you going.
Do you listen to music when you?
No.
Really?
No. Oh, no.
Because you're emphatic about this, so it distracts you.
Do you have to write in your space, or can you go to a coffee shop, or?
I have written out other places, and sometimes I'll take myself on a solo retreat somewhere. There's a Quaker cottage in West Falmouth. I'll go down and rent it for a week during the off season, or a friend is going away for a long weekend, and I'll cat sit and just, even if it's in Newburyport and I'm in Amesbury, I'm not in my own house with my own stuff and the newspaper, the laundry, and. What was the second part of your question?
The planning out the series.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any idea what's going to happen to the characters in the next book?
I have over, say, the first 3 books, I'll kind of have a sense of it. And I tend to get contracts in 3-book chunks. So actually, when I'm writing the 3rd book in a contract, I don't know if it's going to be renewed or not. So I have to... It
makes for some interesting choices.
It does. I have to end the book so that I would be okay if the series ended with that book, but I haven't closed off anything.
Yep.
So far, I've only had 1 series canceled, not renewed. But right now, I'm coming up to the end of all 3 of my contracts. So the book I'm writing now is the 3rd one, and then the next book I'll be writing is the 9th one. And then the next book I'll be writing is the 7th one, which is the last one under contract. So, but in general, I have a very, very nebulous idea of the series arc.
Yep.
And I haven't planned to finish. Like I haven't ever planned to do a X number 7-book series.
Yep.
But we'll see.
So you don't have a complete storyline.
No, and that's okay, because my characters and my protagonist keep changing, as they should, or it would get terribly boring.
I just had this conversation yesterday about it was about TV series, but it applies to series as well, literary series. Is that sometimes the the arc of the story over the course of the series is annoying. You just want the individual books and the individual episodes, and sometimes the arc of the series is kind of difficult to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, people are still buying my books, so
Yeah.
I guess whatever I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the book-to-book thing going, and your overarching plot is probably good too. But
Yeah.
that can be difficult.
And I don't, like, it's one reason I don't plot is that I feel like I would be bored writing it. And so in a way, I don't really want to know the end of the series
Yeah.
because I just want it to keep evolving. Yeah, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
So one last one, looking at your titles, like Nacho Average Murder. How important is humor in what you're doing?
You know, if I try to write funny, I totally bomb. But especially this country store mysteries, the voice just came out funny. And I have a couple characters who have these really colorful Southern sayings like, oh, that went faster than green grass through a goose. You know, that kind of thing. So the genre tends to have puns for titles. Strangled Eggs and Ham, Death Over Easy, Biscuits and Slash Browns. These are all earlier books in that series.
Do you come up with the titles, or is it the editor?
I come up with some I crowdsource, because I'm not very good at puns.
Okay.
So I'll send it out to my friends, or I'll put it on my Facebook page and say, usually I'll do it with, there's a group, Sisters in Crime group, that I'll run it by.
You're pretty active on social media, on Facebook?
I am active on Facebook. I am on Instagram. Not as active.
Not as I saw that. I went to
Yeah.
look at your
I've
Instagram.
got stuff,
One of your Instagrams.
and I'm on Twitter. Sometimes mostly retweeting other stuff.
Yeah.
But a little bit.
Yeah, but mostly on Facebook.
Mostly
So
on
if people
Facebook.
are engaged and they're like, I want to find
Sure,
more about
Maddie
Edith.
Day Author is that author page, and Edith M. Maxwell is my other author page. So I have two.
Do you find that people tend to follow both, or do you have Maddie, your hardcore Maddie Day?
I have my hardcore Maddie Day
Really?
fans.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I don't know if they go over to Edith Maxwell. Or
Does
not.
that feel strange, thinking that they're a fan of this person who is you, but who isn't you at the same time?
I'd make no secret that we're the same person.
Okay.
So it doesn't bother me, and I know how much they love my books.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Is Maddie Day's style different from yours? Is her author style
especially
different
in the
than
country
yours?
country store mysteries. As I said, the voice just came out funnier,
Yeah.
a lot funnier. I don't know that it's quite as funny on the Cape Cod series, but they're still my books,
Yep.
so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
You ever think of writing for film or doing something different than the mystery genre, or is this your home?
Oh, this is totally my home. Yeah. I mean, people have said, well, you should write, like, the Quaker Midwife Mysteries should be on TV. I said, do you have a contact? Anybody have a contact? It would be great to be a TV show, a historical show. And then somebody else, well, you should write the screenplay or the script. And I said, I don't know anything about that. And I'm busy.
Yeah.
I also write short stories, and I should have brought it. My first short story in one of the two big mystery magazines is out right now in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine, and it's called One Too Many, written as Edith Maxwell. So I'm writing 3 books a year. Last year I also wrote a novella, and 2 or 3 short stories a year. So
blogging quite a bit.
Blogging quite a bit. I don't have time to learn how to write.
What's your
in a
typing? Do you know your
different
typing speed? It's got to be pretty fast, right?
thing. I don't know.
Okay.
Thank goodness for, correcting.
Right. Any other questions, Lou?
No, I think good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the 495.
Thank you
Really,
for
really
having
appreciate it.
me.
Once again, hit like on the live feed, and I'll get this out. And I'm hoping Edith will sign this now. Thank you so much for coming
I'd be
on.
happy
I
to.
appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Lou.